Let's get into talking about today's political headlines with our panelists. And this morning, we welcome in Democratic strategist Raj Goyal and Republican strategist Matt Klink. Good to see both of you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning.
All right, I want to talk first of all, Raj, with the news that came down on Friday, obviously with the vote and with Democrats and avoiding the government shutdown, which is a good thing, keep the government going in the big picture. But for the Democratic Party, how would you categorize it? Fractured in the Senate? Something that can be made up for? What was your take on this?
Yeah, I don't think we can put lipstick on this pig. We're definitely fractured, and I think, and I certainly count myself as one person who's quite disappointed in leadership on this, because this is really about values that we're fighting for. People's lives are being destroyed in this absolute reckless destruction. Today's story was just heartbreaking. There's a pediatric brain cancer unit that's being shut down. That's absolutely unnecessary. There is a incredible kidney transplant surgeon who happens to be on a J-1 visa, the same visa as my parents came from India to build an entire life 50 years ago here in America, deported and in violation of a court order. So these things, to Democrats and to the majority of the country, they're not what people voted for in November, even though Donald Trump certainly won the election. So I'm certainly stand with those who call for Chuck Schumer to have not supported this president and gotten nothing in return. So obviously this fallout will continue, but there is a real reckoning coming, and it's an important one.
Matt, I want to ask you about the process, because you've been a part of so many different campaigns and issues over your career. A lot of people, understand, even if they don't support this administration, that maybe, you got to pare down the business from time to time. And in this case, the business is the federal government, right? And you got to look for waste, you got to look for fraud. Is this the right way to go about it, or is it just because a lot of people, I think to Raj's point, you just look at this like, let's just cut a certain percentage off the top without looking at individual storylines. Is that what you have to do on this point? Is there a strategy to that works?
Well, I think that the Republicans, at least under Donald Trump and in the House right now, they're looking to do some serious downsizing. They realize that the government has gotten a little too big and too unwieldy. And I think that the Democrats are smart to humanize this issue wherever possible. They always say that every program has a constituency. And in this case, Raj just highlighted some real human cost to that. However, on the macro level or in the big picture, that there are some significant waste, fraud, and abuse, and just frankly, some pretty stupid things that government should not be involved in. And any cut is always going to be painful for Washington, D.C., because the bureaucracy wants to continue grow. It's a beast. So, yes, it's painful, but I think in the grand scheme of things, it's what's needed to put this country on the right path.
So, Raj, back to your original point then, and speaking of like pain levels, right, because this decision was made by the Senate leadership, at least at the top with Senator Schumer, is it repairable, or has the precedent essentially been set now for any future challenges?
Well, I appreciate Matt's point, and one thing I want to say is that it's really not about the agencies. And as Matt said, in just terms of political framing here, it's about the people's lives who are impacted. And one of the reasons that Democrats have gotten ourselves a little bit twisted up is that we're focused on the process and the institutions, which is less important than people's lives. And so one of the things I think Matt and I may agree on, is there waste in government? Of course there is. It's in big Pentagon weapon systems that we're paying too much that we can't even afford to use. It's in health insurance fraud. What people in their bones and common sense know is waste, and that we should actually cut the grift in the government. And, I was a technology CEO, successfully sold a company. You know how much waste and bloat there is in the private sector? I sold software into some of the largest companies in the world. Of course, there's bloat everywhere. We should all be against bloat. But as you said, this is not really cutting bloat. This is indiscriminate ideological war. If you don't like Donald Trump, you're on the chopping block. If you're a union, you're on the chopping block. But if you're actually doing good things for our country, like pediatric brain research, if you're doing kidney transplant surgery, is there a reason that we're messing with you? I don't think so.
I guess the question then, Matt, is one of many. How long can you keep this pace, right? If you're this administration, and I get it, you're looking to cut as much as you possibly can. But I think that those who are not fans or supportive of this administration might say, okay, so you cut, but then you realize maybe you cut the wrong thing, or maybe you cut too much, and now you reverse course a little bit, and then you cut again, and then you reverse course. Is that sustainable?
Well, I think you're looking at it from the wrong perspective. I think what really the Republicans are trying to do right now is everything that's been done to date has just been tinkering around the edges. Where the Republican Party is going to make great strides is when they pass their reconciliation bill that will probably come sometime later in May, and that will then transition the economy from kind of a hybrid Biden-Trump economy to a full Trump economy, and that's where, I mean, every president that has had both houses of Congress when he has been in office has used reconciliation to pass the majority of their economic program. That's where real big changes will be coming. So these cuts are important right now. They're symbolic. They were overwhelmingly supported by the Republican base and the independents that voted for Donald Trump. And again, I think they're going to keep their head down and pull through. And you're right. If they do go too far, they'll hire some people back. And if they don't, then they won't. But I think that you're going to find that the government has grown radically since 2019. We could switch back to a 2019 operating level, and we would be just fine in a pre-COVID world.
Well, listen, everybody is keeping an eye on the economy right now, and some might say that's bloated as well. It depends on your perspective and where you're coming from. But we do know this. A lot more change is to come, and I look forward to talking with both of you again, hopefully at some point in the very near future. But for now, Raj Goyal, Matt Klink, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thanks. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
I appreciate it.